Much like supporters of Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, investors seem happy with the conclusion of Turkey's elections. Many hope that as the political noise subsides, the economy will improve.
There will be economic stability in the country. There had been volatility in the markets. Now it is over.
The result is fantastic. For my country and my people, this is the best way. Stability will be maintained. The president will remain the same. That's what we needed.
But the initial gains posted by the Turkish lira stocks and bonds have quickly leveled as the focus returns to the economic challenges ahead. President Erdogan says his government will focus on bringing the interest rate down in the new term. He's promising cheaper loans for the real estate sector and other businesses. That focus on cheap credit is continuing to propel the economy, but imports are outpacing exports. The government has also been trying to stem the outflow of foreign currency, but that target has been elusive so far. Government officials say the country's shift to a presidential form of government will boost confidence in the economy.
Our president takes the helm with a new system. The executive presidential system, or the presidential system of government, is crucial for stability, economic growth, and development of our country.
But experts say that will depend on the policies President Erdogan now implements.
Turkey has not been doing well, at least in the last 2 years. So if we see the economy management returning back to implementation of the policies, and also with the rebalancing and with the lifting of state of emergency, I think the pressure on the lira will ease in for the rest of the year. But if these things are not coming, and then we expect some additional pressure.
As the country's executive, President Erdogan now has more power to implement his vision than ever before, and many are waiting to see what steps he takes to define Turkey's economic future. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Joining me now on set is Taha Arvas. He's a financial columnist at the Daily Sabah newspaper. Welcome back, as always, Taha. Great to have you. Let's talk about the financial markets in Turkey first. They rallied initially. The lira was up, the stocks were up quite strongly, about 3% at one point, but then they all ended lower. What's the message that investors are trying to send to President Erdogan?
I think in the afternoon, the U.S. futures markets opened. And as you see today, the S&P is down almost 2%, the NASDAQ is down over 2%. So that's more of an international effect. The European markets were down almost all in the red today. So
yep.
I think
I think in comparison, we've sort of outperformed these other markets and not fallen quite as much.
Right, exactly. I think so. Turkey was, initially the rally was because of the election, and then ultimately the foreign bad news hurted the stock market.
But are there, I suppose the initial rally was centered on the sentiment that there's going to be continuity, that there's going to be certainty, I suppose, in terms of economic policy, and many other policies as well. But then was there also a sense in the markets that perhaps some of the things that the markets don't like about President Erdogan's policies are also going to carry through?
I think what we saw today was there could have been many different results in the elections. The greatest, I think, thing that happened during the elections was it was uneventful. People voted, the elections came through, they had observers all over the place, every party had their own observers, and there were no objections outright to any of these conclusions. So that was the biggest takeaway. A democratic election was held, one alliance got a majority of the results and of the seats, and that, I think, is why the market rallied initially.
What can we expect then from President Erdogan in his second term in terms of economic policy? Will they be a lot different to what we saw in the first term?
I think when you have a parliamentary system, you have to appoint your ministers from within the parliament. With now the executive presidency, it's much more like the United States system. So just like President Trump can appoint a Treasury Secretary or other ministers, secretaries, President Erdogan will have the same power. So that will give him a larger scope of people to choose from. And if you have a larger pool of talent to choose from, ultimately, I think you'll do better. So that might bode well for Turkey.
What about the criticisms that perhaps the new system allows for, perhaps, let's talk about the central bank, for example. I mean, the criticism is that the presidential system means that perhaps the independence of the central bank might be compromised.
Right.
What is the response to that?
That's a criticism that's been going on for several months, for several years, rather. The reality is the central bank is independent, and the members of the central bank, the members of the committee that decide for the interest rates can't be changed. So it doesn't matter what the president says as far as what his expectations are for interest rates. If the committee decides, and they've gone up by 500 basis points, interest rates have, simultaneously while the president was deriding high interest rates. So I think that's a key indicator that the central bank does what it wants.
But what is it that he can do now that he couldn't do before, economically especially?
As far as monetary policy, nothing, to be honest with you. I mean, fiscal policy, I think he has a little bit more control over the Treasury and raising funds, perhaps inviting investors, foreign investors, because the executive presidency, as the United States has shown, is a very strong tool. The people choose someone to be the captain of the ship, as it were, as opposed to the past where it was, there's several captains. So we'll see how it plays out. But if the past is any indication in the United States, it'll be interesting, and hopefully it'll bode well for Turkey.
Taha Arvas, as always, thank you so much for your insights.